Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with Painting Crafty, and it's Tuesday night, time for a little draw along fun. And tonight I'm going to walk you step by step how to create this sweet little Christmas angel. She's adorable with her little horn and announcing the night of Christmas Eve, maybe, Christmas Day. And I'm going to be using a few little different things, watercolor, some metallic pens as well to be able to add a little bit of shine to it. She's got some little shine on her star and on her buttons is where we have that. So I'm going to be using the watercolor paper. If you're new to my channel, this is the one I prefer to use, the Canson watercolor paper. It's 140 pound. It's still considered a student grade watercolor paper, so it's very reasonably priced. But I always say just spend just a tiny bit more on your watercolor paper and then just buy the watercolors that you can afford. I'm just going to be using some simple materials like a pencil, just a mechanical pencil. I always have an eraser, at least a polymer one along. And if I'm not doing a lot of erasing and I'm not doing a lot of ink work, it's great to have a little bit of a gum eraser as well to be able to take up some of my pencil marks. And I'm just going to be using the simple little set like this for my watercolor, nothing too fancy. It's still got 50 colors in it, and this is one of the reasons I love doing watercolor. I can pick this up and have 50 colors right in my hand. So that's one of the things I really enjoy. Hello, ladies. Hello, Mary from Painted Peach. You're on, and Facebook user. I am streaming into all different locations tonight. I've got 3 different Facebook groups I'm on and on my page, as well as YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, if you could give me a thumbs up, that would be great. YouTube loves that. And if you're on Facebook, if you'd share me out, that would be wonderful too. And if you like what you see at the end, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to my channel? I love having new members and new followers. Well, let's go ahead and jump right on in. I'm going to switch this camera view so you can see little me, a big angel, because she is absolutely cute. Let's switch it over that way. All right, there she is. So when I teach drawing, I always divide my paper in. This one's a 5.5 by 5.5, so it's a fairly small drawing. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a T, so down the middle and across. What this is going to do, it's going to help me tell you or show you how big am I making my items and where I'm kind of positioning on my paper. Now yours might be totally different. You're using a bigger paper. That's fine. You can still use that idea of using the crossbars to kind of divide up your drawing as well. I'm going to start with my angel's head right here. And if we look at her shape of her face, it's rather a U shape here. I'm going to add just a little bit of a chin when I get over here and maybe just a hint of a jawline. I'll reshape my U as I'm doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, see, here's my center line. So I'm going to base her little face close to my center line. Here's the T cross. So I'm going to be up a little higher, face her over this way, and so I have enough room to be able to put her horn and enough area to put some big, beautiful wings. So let's start with our face. So I'm going to start on this one over here. I'll keep this here. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Okay, so I'm going to come up from my center line. Here's my center here. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to start with a U shape. And I'm going to do this U for her face. I like to do a little sketchy movement with my hand so I can just warm my hand up and then get an idea of where I want to place things. I think she looks pretty good. That's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide which line do I want to keep. Okay, I'm going to keep that line. So I got to kind of make a decision. So on this end, because I'm going to be making her face off to the side, so she's not looking straight on, she's actually looking off to the distance. I'm going to be putting the center of my face over here. So I'm going to be making my line for my center of my face on this direction right here. I'm going to be making it over here. So by knowing that, I'm going to make my chin here. So I'm going to kind of give a little bit sharper edge to my bottom of my U. And then when I come back to make a little bit of a jawline, I'm just going to make this a little bit rounder like that and then up. The rest of it's going to stay the same. Now we have our face kind of set up. Let's go ahead and put her eyes in. So if we take a look, we've got one eye that's over towards this area, and this is where her nose would be. So it's a little bit set off from the center of my line. That's going to help give the right proportion. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to put my first little eye. It's going to be right here. Now she's got a small head, so they're going to be fairly small eyes. So here's my center line of my face. I'm going to come off of that right over here and put my next little eye right there. Okay, I'm going to erase this because I don't need this. I'm going to put it really light I can still see my line, but that's going to help me put my nose. For a nose, all I'm going to do is just a little tiny U. That's all I'm going to do. There's not a lot for my nose. It's just a little tiny U. Now let's go ahead and put her mouth. So this was that line that we drew here. I can still see it. I can do just a small little circle. That's going to give me an idea of where my horn is. But let's pop up here. Now, so this will be her eye. I'll put that in so it gives you an idea of where to place things. I'll do that with my marker at the end. Now let's go ahead and draw her hair. Now I always love a curly head angel because I had curly hair as a child. It was wild, it was curly, it was bright red as a child. So I always like to do a curly head angel. But you can do any color you would like, any type. If you want to make yours straight, you can. But I'm going to come up here, and this was the center of my head. So here would be kind of like the center part. I would come here. I'm going to give some height to my hair. I'm going to keep on doing that little bit of a curly, and I'm going to throw a little pigtail in there because she's adorable that way. And then I'm going to come this way and do it. Now this side would actually be shorter than this one because it's farther away. So I'm going to make that pigtail just a little bit shorter. Okay, and then I have to come across my forehead because this is where her hair is. And then I'm just going to kind of just do a squiggly line is what I'm going to do. And then just make sure it's coming down on her forehead, that it's up a little higher so it doesn't look like she's got just this flat head. Okay, there we go. Oh, I think that looks cute. Now we've got her little jaw on her little face. Let's put her neck in. Now her neck is going to be over here. So we would have her neckline is going to come back here. So if we look at, this is going to be her chest. So I'm going to come down towards my center line. Draw my angle. We're going to draw this line right here. We're going to come across. So we're going to come down underneath my center line. So I'm going to come down here. So we're going to come across here, heading across. Now I'm going to draw this next line kind of at a slight angle. So this one was a little shorter. That one's going to be slightly longer than this angle right here. So I'm going to come and I'm going to come up with the back side. I'm going to be heading. Now I got to still leave room, a little room for feet. So I can't cover them all up. And then let's do her back. And her back is just going to be kind of a simple little line that's going to match up with her skirt, however you might have drawn it. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase this little T in the middle because I no longer need that. Okay, she's looking cuter. All right, we have that part on. Let's stick her collar in. So her collar is going to be down here. I'm only going to see partially this side right here. And then I'm going to see more of this one. It's going to wrap around, kind of come this direction, kind of line it up that way. So it still kind of matches where her eyes are. So we would see part of it, but not all of it. Let's do her arm and then we can do her horn. So this is the arm that's going to be going up and holding her horn. So when I do the little arms are going to be wider at this end and then they're going to go narrower as they go up. And that's just going to give enough dimension to my arm as I'm coming up. Now I can draw this like that, and when I'll have a better idea of how long I need it to be able to put my hand in after I get my horn in. So to do the horn, I'm going to come here. Now if we look, it's got just a gentle little curve up like this. The horn is going up. And then the end of it is more of an oval shape. It's not really round. So if we do it in oval, that's going to give it a little bit more dimension. So we're going to start here, right in her little mouth. We're going to come up with my horn, come over here, come up with my horn, and then make this an oval shape at the end of my horn. Now take a look. Are we matched up quite right? I think I need to either make my oval shape smaller or my horn wider. So I need to match that end as well as I can. All right, that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to need to back off my arm just a little bit because she's going to have a cuff. So I'm going to put a cuff to her dress here. Then this is going to be her hand. I'm going to see some of it come up to the horn, and then it's going to stop because then her fingers are going to be on top where she's holding it. So I'm just going to not do a lot of work on the fingers. I'm just going to draw them as a suggestion. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. There's not a lot of detail. I think I might even make them a little bit smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 little bumps. And it's going to read that that's a hand, and people will know. It'll just say, oh, that's her hand. So we don't have to put a lot of detail there at all. Now let's go ahead and put her next arm in, which is going to come in front of her. So I'm going to look to see where it makes sense to put her shoulder. And again, this is going to be wider. It's going to be like a cup handle. We're going to do backward C's is what we're doing for her arms here. It's going to be slightly wider here and then get narrower. Now her hand, the cuff, is still kind of inside of her dress, if that makes sense for your drawing, how large you did it. And then her little hand is just coming out and she's going to be holding a star. All right, so I'm going to look here. This is where it makes sense to start her shoulder for me. Okay, I'm going to start right here and then down. I'm going to come down a little ways. So there it is. I'm going to do my first backward C. That's going to come across her body and then a little ways past her dress, but not too far. Now we're going to come down and we're going to get a little narrower as we go. And then we're going to stop, put a cuff like that. And then I'm just going to do a very simple little hand. It's not anatomically correct or anything. I'm just coming out and doing some little bumps here, like maybe 4, and then have it come back in. Okay, cute. I'm thinking I want to put my hair down just a little lower over this part of her face. I'm going to get rid of that little blockish look. Okay, cute. All right, we've got our little body drawn in. Let's put her little feet in because that'll be the next part that we would need to do. So I just put little tiny like leggings almost here at the bottom. And then her feet are just simple little U's. You can put little toes if you want to. How many of her little toes you want to put? If you want to put little five toes, you can and bring it back. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to put 5. If you put even 3 or 4, people are going to still know it's toes and you've got little toes on the end. So there we got our little feet. Or you don't have to put any toes in. They can just be little U's like that. Maybe she has stockings on instead of little toes. Is what we would be seeing. Now you can decorate up any part of your dress that you want to and add your own designs. I threw in some buttons here. I did 1, 2, 3, and I put them on the same angle that my dress is drawn. And I added some just with my pencil mark, and I'm going to leave this in pencil. I added a little detail to my little collar by adding that little bit of a ball on the end. Now let's pop some big old wings in here. So her first set of wings are going to be like close up to her head here. This is going to be the biggest one. We're going to pop out and then you can just do a feather motion back and forth, like a finger motion to the back. And then this one's going to be a little smaller because it's behind. So it's going to be narrower, longer, and a little bit more ruffle this way. Hello, everyone. As everyone's coming on. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to do this part here, and we're going to start with this back one. So we're going to come up. This is going to be our biggest wing. So I'm going to come up, do a little bit of a jig jog. So I'm going to do an irregular line, but you could do more of a uniform line, however you want to make your wings. And then now this wing is going to be coming longer and skinnier. Well, it's not longer. It's going to be up, but this part here is going to be skinnier. So I'm just going to come in, do an irregular line, have this little nice curve here. Okay, she's got her cute little wings on there, lickety split. All right, let's go ahead and add some hills into the bottom, just some simple little snow hills. This has got a motion here and a motion here and a little one there. Now you can add more buildings on here. Cute little snowmen would be cute drawn down here in the snow. Or if you'd like to draw little tiny animals, they would be cute as well. But I just did the 3 buildings. And then I added this treatment of my tree on there where there's the lighter color and then the pen work is inside of there. I saw that in a different drawing I seen, and I thought that was really kind of a clever idea, so I wanted to include that on there. So let's go ahead and add some little snow hills on the bottom here. So I'm just going to come here, come across like this, over all the way across, and then up here and over again. And you might need to add a 3rd one if you're going to anchor your 3rd building, if you end up doing 3. I'm going to erase the center line while I have it here. I can just use my pencil quickly. I'm going to erase this one too because I know I no longer need that. And we can erase this as well. Okay. Soften that line. All right, let's put some of these little buildings in. Now the buildings are just real simple little buildings, nothing too fancy. I'm going to draw my first one here with I'm going to start with this shape where I come down on each side. Then I'm going to draw a roof line. But on this one, I'm going to double it because I'm going to want to show snow. So I'm going to come over here and do another line like that. This is going to be my roof. It's going to come across like that. So I've got my line coming back at an angle. Now I'm going to come at an angle here. So this line needs to match this one. So if you drew it this way, this one goes the same way, like that. And then we're going to come across at an angle. This line matches this line, so it's drawn the same way. And then we're going to come straight down with the side. Okay, and we have our little simple house. Let's pop a little roof in there, like that. Now I'm going to do that same type of tree. Now you could go ahead and just lightly do a pencil for where you want to put your tree. It can have a bottom and it can have a lollipop stick at the bottom if you want to put a little lollipop stick in there. Make it a lollipop tree. It's also going to have, I just did a simple little gingerbread style window, nothing too fancy. And then I did just a real simple door. And one of the themes, now the top of my door technically should match this line, like that. I did put little hearts in each for the door handles with my pen, is what I ended up doing. Okay, and then let's pop down and do our church. So we're gonna do, I'm gonna do a church where my, instead of being just a straight rectangle, I'm gonna have a little bit of shape to it. So my rectangle is coming in. Anything in the middle, you might have lines there. Go ahead and erase that. So you can see how my lines are got a little bit of a shape, more of a shape to it. All right, let's do our church roof now. So we're gonna come up, that. Let's do a little bit of a tower, and then there will be a cross. Now for my door, I did an arch door, like that. I'm going to put a little heart in there too as well. And I'm going to throw a little bell tower in here too. So flat bottom and then a U for my space. That's it for the church. Now let's pop over here and do another one of these little houses, these little gingerbread houses over here. So I'm going to start with my shape here. I'm going to make this one a little lower. So I'm going to come in here, come on each side, start with that little straight up and down rectangle, erase what might ever be in there. Then do your roof line. Up we go. Down. I'm going to double this side over here again for my snow. Like that will be the side I see the snow. Then I'm going to come back with my back part, put it at an angle that matches this one, come across, that matches that one, and then I'm going to go straight down. Now this next line I put in has to match this one. So there we go. We're going to put it right like that. All right, now we have a little dimensional house without a lot of work. I think it's kind of fun to do those little extra things. Let's pop a little chimney in here too. Now for this side, I put the little window up front again, the little gingerbread window with my little X. And I just did a simple little door. The top of my door has to match this line, that. And then we come down. And I'm going to put a little heart here too for my handle. So just a cute little gingerbread style house. Now let's do a little tree here. Now my one that I did originally, I had enough room to put my tree right behind it. I might not have enough room on this one to do it. Maybe we'll pop it in there and see what happens. I'll go behind my house a little bit more and just end it like that. Now I had thought after I finished this that maybe I should have put some of those like that. I should have maybe put one next to my church just to give it another area, or you could do bushes instead of tall trees. They could be the same idea, but doing smaller ones. But I really do like the look of that. So I'm going to pop another one in here. Maybe I'll just try a bush this time. And I'll do a little round one like that behind my church. We'll try it, see what happens. Okay, so we have all of it drawn. Oh, we got to put the little star in. So I'm going to come here, and she's hanging on to a little star. Like that. I'm going to do a little ribbon on the top. And some crazy old, because I like to do these little whimsical tops on that thing. And this can go up even into her dress if you wanted it to be. Okay, I think I'm good. Now for my pen work tonight, I'm going to be using a micron pen because microns are permanent. They won't move around. You do have to give them just a tiny bit of time for them to dry when you're doing these small drawings. Otherwise, they will move around on you, so you need to give it just a tiny bit of time. I'm not going to do a lot of pen work up here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take my eraser. This is my old one. I need to find my new one. My little gum eraser that I have. And I'm going to be using that to pick up some of my pencil. So I'm going to pick up some of my pencil on her face. I draw heavy. One thing for you to be able to see what I'm doing, but I do kind of have a heavy hand. going to erase that line a little bit more so it looks like her horn is in front of her, not behind that area. Okay, and I'm going to erase just a tiny bit on her hair. I'm still going to see my line work, and I'm okay with seeing some of my pencil. I'm an artist who doesn't mind seeing a little bit of my pencil at all. Sometimes I like that definition more than just a hard line with my marker. So I'm okay with seeing a little bit of pencil work. Now I'm going to go also throw in a little detail here on her dress. I'm going to put a metallic marker here. I'm going to curve it so it has a little bit, like it looks like it's going around her. And I'm going to come here and add another line. And then I will come in with my metallic marker and do some round dots in there. I'm going to turn her sideways and put these little hearts in. I'm just going to do 3 on her dress. So cute. Okay. All right. I think we're ready to go. Let's go ahead. I maybe need to get this line erased just a tiny bit more. Use my handy dandy dust vacuum to be able to pick up my little markings, my little shade-ins. Okay, let's do her eyes. I know I want to do her eyes. This is a 01. It works great for these little tiny spots. I'm going to put the dark in. I'm going to try my hardest to leave a little bit of white right in there. I have just the tiniest bit of catch light there. And come over here and do the same thing. All right, great. Now I'm going to pop here. I'm going to do the cross like that. I did do the little hearts in a stronger black. These would be cute done in red, I think too, or any color you really wanted them actually. Now to do these little trees in here, I'm going to find a center line and then come straight down through my tree. And then when I do my sticks, they're almost all going to be like V's, but irregular V's, not exactly across from each other. I'm going to start with that first, coming up. And then I'm going to add a little tiny V's that are on the ends, and I can even add more, and I'm going to touch the outside of my circle, connect that spot. I can touch some of the one next to me too, so I can make those touch too. So these are going to be just irregular shapes and coming up. And I'm filling that space in a little bit and adding that detail. Okay, but I'm not going to do the outside. I'm going to create the outside with just my watercolor. Now I'm going to come here and do the same thing down the middle, give it a little V at the top, and then I'm going to add my little sticks. So, and then come in and add this way. These are just fun little whimsical trees that are fun to do. And I like the idea that they were the blue was so much lighter behind in my tree shape than my sky. Now I'm going to come here, so I'm going to choose to do just choose to do it this way, this direction, and do my little V's this way, and then come out this way. So they'll be similar to my trees, but different. Again, if you wanted to toss in a few little snowmen on the hills, that would be cute. I think last year we did one with like rabbits that were looking out, the backside of our rabbits and looking out. That was super cute. So I'm going to put my bow in my Micron 2. And honestly, once you have the shape drawn, you can use whatever you want. So if you want to use colored pencil, you want to use gel pens, I'm going to do a little bit of scribbly work on my wings. And I want my wings to have more of a loose quality and not so precise. So I'm going to just do very much a sketchy kind of look, just to give her little wings a little bit of motion. I'm going to use some metallic watercolor on her too. All right, I think I'm ready to start my watercolor process. Now I'm just going to be using this little set of inexpensive watercolor, and I'm just going to put it on my right side because I am right-handed. So if you're left-handed, you're going to want to put everything on your left-hand side. I've already sprayed this little set with some water in a spray bottle, so it's been sitting off to the side just to get a little bit softer. And let me see, what did I do with my paintbrushes today? Oh, here they are. I just looked and thought, oh my goodness, I don't have a paintbrush out. Hello everyone, thanks for coming on in tonight. Thanks for the live stream. I'm glad you're here tonight. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with my watercolor. I do have this little watercolor dish that I like to use for mixing of watercolor. It's kind of the perfect little size for these little drawings. It is porcelain, so it easily washes out and I can reuse it. And it's a handy dandy little dish to have. Now I'm going to start, since she's got reddish hair, I'm actually going to start out with a little bit of orange first. This brighter orange, and I'm mixing about tea consistency. The more water you have in your watercolor, the lighter it's going to be. The less water, the darker the pigment is. But with watercolor, you want to start light and then work your way dark. It's rather like painting the shadows when you're doing a watercolor. Now you can even leave a bright white inside of her hair as the brightest whites and leave it that way showing. You can have some of your paper showing, that's fine in watercolor. And I know I'm going to be adding more layers, so I'm 100% fine with that. Now I'm going to pick up some brighter red, and that's the color I'm going to be doing my horn. And then I figured I'd carry that across my picture. Oh, I have some right here. I can just use this one. I already have some there. That's another cool thing about watercolor. All you have to do is add a little bit more water and you can reuse your color. So I'm going to do her horn in this. I'm going to come, and this will be my first layer, so this will be my lightest. Now I am using a watercolor brush tonight, the Velvet Touch Princeton. This is a number 6, and number 4 would work well with this too. These little water brushes have a great little belly on it. It's got a nice spring. They keep a great point, which is really what you want when you're doing these super tiny drawings. Now I'm going to come in here and add just a little bit of red there. Remember, this is the first layer, so I'll be going a little darker. All right, so there we go on that one. And let's mix. I have to give this a little bit of chance to dry. If I were to come in here too early with my face color is going to run into my orange, or my orange is going to flow into my wet paper area, because watercolor always wants to follow wherever your paper is wet and where the water is. So you want to give your paper just a little bit of chance in your colors to dry so you can keep them separate, or they're all going to just bleed into one another and you won't have the separateness that you really want. Now for my little church, all I did is use a little bit of gray, just a simple little gray wash on it. I'm going to come in and just do a little light layer. I'm going to leave some of my brights still showing, my white down there, and I'm not going to cover it all in. I still want some of that white to show through. And for my gingerbread houses, I'm just going to mix a brown. That one's really orange. And this set, I don't have a lot of great browns. And the people who watch me on the regular know I complain about it all the time. But it really doesn't have a great brown. So I just kind of mix all the browns I have together and try to make my own brown that I want. So here I'm going to start this. I'm going to go ahead and do this part of my house. Now if you lay your brush down and on your paper and it's got way too much water, you can pick it up. All you have to do is touch your paper towel, or touch your brush on a piece of paper towel, and then that will remove some of the moisture, and then you can come in and then touch it again and the brush will pick it up. It's called a thirsty brush. I'm going to come over here and do the same thing on this house, because these are little twinsies house, I guess. I can imagine that maybe there's 2 sisters that live in these houses and they each have matching houses. This sounds like a fairy tale, I think. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. I'll probably put another layer on there and even darken the color up a little bit more. It's already looking cute. Now let's pop up and do her face a little bit. I'm going to use just a light, you know what, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to do her hair since I've still got it going here. Now I'm going to take a little bit of red and I'm going to pop my red in just with the tip of my brush. Now, depending on how bright, if you're doing a little redhead, depending on how bright you want it, you might leave it there, or I'm going to pick up some of that brown that I just used on my houses down here, and I'm going to tap a little bit of that rusty color of the brown in too on top of my red. And since my paper is still wet underneath there, those colors are going to mix and make their own little watercolor magic. I'm not trying to cover up all of the colors that I just put on, so I still have a little bits of hints of that bright orange that I have there. I still left a tiny bit of white in there. And then I still have some of my red. So I'm not trying to cover up everything. I'm just adding that next layer. Let's go ahead and add that next layer of red onto the horn. So I'm going to take a little bit of red, but I'm also going to take a little bit of brown. Whoop, that was a lot of brown. Way too much brown. I'm going to pick some of that up, put it over here. I don't want that much brown. I'm just going to add, I want just a darker brown a little bit in my red. Okay, perfect. I'm going to put some of that inside of my horn because I want that inside to be darker. I'm going to come down here and add a little bit of that darkness at the bottom of my horn right here. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to add just a tiny bit on her pants and we'll see what we end up. I'm not trying to control it too much. Now I went really kind of out of my line here, but more than I want to. So I'm rinsing my brush out. I'm tapping it. I have clean water in there and I can come here and I can go underneath and try to lift up that color a little bit just by tickling that edge and lifting that color. Kind of gets it back in there. I don't want too much water there because if it's too much water, that red's going to want to run right down into that wet spot that I just put in there. Okay, let's let that dry a little bit. Now I did use that same kind of gingerbread color, so I'm going to make a little bit more of that. I'm just taking all of my browns that I have, a little bit of golden brown, a little bit of russet brown, a little bit of more darker brown, and I'm going to add just a tiny bit of black into it this time and give it a darker tone. Okay, there we go. I'm going to give this a tap and I'm going to come in and add just a little bit of darkness to, like, okay, that would be a shadow underneath there. It'd be a shadow on this side. Maybe there's a little shadow over here. But again, I'm not looking to cover up everything I just put on. I'm going to darken this side over here, onto the side there, underneath, add a little bit there, and maybe a little bit on this side too. Okay, now I'm going to use the same color and I am going to do this on her cuffs of her dress. Now this is, you can come up with any combination you want. I'm going to do this on her hearts too because I'm doing kind of a blue and brown kind of look to her dress. Okay, that looks good. Now I got to give that a chance to dry, so I'm going to come in and do her facial color. I'm going to choose to use a fair skin for my angel. You can add anything that you want. You can add it a little bit darker if you want to. I'm going to start with this fair color first, and I'm going to tap it in all over her face. And then I'm going to come back in with just a little bit more darker color to add some depth to that tone. Now it's wet, so I can pick up a little bit more of an orangey color, orangey, rusty color. I might need to add a little bit more brown in it. But I do want to have quite a bit of water in this, so I want it to be fairly light. I might even pick up some of my gingerbread house color. Okay, it's pretty light. I'm going to tap it here. Yeah, that looks good. And then I'm going to come in. Now my face is still pretty wet, and I'm going to just tap a little bit of color underneath where her shadows might be. And I'm just going to let that sit and do its little watercolor magic and see what happens. And let that color just sit on its own for just a little bit. I think it's so funny how they always look so different and how this little girl looks different than the other little girl that I just did. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and work on her blue dress now. So I chose kind of a light blue color for her dress. Not a turquoisey color though, actually. It's over. I'm picking a turquoise color blue, like this color blue for her dress. Again, I'm going to put it in this little pot here and make it about the consistency of tea. Give it a tap, make sure I don't have too much on there. And then I'm going to put the first layer in. And I'm going to move my brush back and forth this direction for her dress. Go around my hearts. I'm going to go around her collar too. I'm going to end up making that. I should have painted it the same time I did her hearts is what I should have done. Come in and do that. Let's come around. And then we're going to be adding another layer onto her dress. So I'll be adding a shadow underneath her arm and giving it a little bit more depth that way. Again, you can also leave some white open on here. You don't need to cover everything. Don't feel like you have to have your angel solid. That's kind of the interesting thing about watercolor. I'm going to leave the center part white here, and then I'm going to come down, skip it over, and I'm going to add this blue right here. Okay, cute. Now I should add just a little bit of color to her feet. Come down here and add her little feet color. I'm not going to pay a lot of attention to those little areas, and I'm going to do this little hand here and this little hand. Cute. Now I need to make that little darker color if I can again for her collar. A little bit here, a little bit there. Okay, give her a tap. Now I'm going to, oh, I should maybe wait just a tiny bit more. Her face is pretty wet. I'm going to continue on. I forgot that blue anyway, so let's go ahead and do this one. I'm afraid if I go and do her collar too soon, I would be making it really dark. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of that gray that I used on my church, and I'm going to pop that in on her wings. I'm just looking for a light, so I added way too much color. So I'm going to rinse my brush out, take it out, add some more clean water to it. And while my color is still wet, I'm going to pick up a silver. This little set has some metallic colors in it. So I have a silver, a copper, a gold, and a bronze. And I'm going to take a little bit of my silver and I'm going to pop it in there. It's going to float on top of that water. It's going to do a little watercolor magic. And when it dries, then we'll be able to see the shine. You can't see it so much when it's wet. Okay, I think I'm going to be happy with that though. Now, if you feel like you get you sprinkled all over, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and if you feel like you've got too much color on there, rinse your brush out with clean water, tap it on your paper towel. Then you can pick it up with your brush and pick up some of the puddles, like if you feel like you have way too much. All right, I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and add another layer of that blue on her dress. Okay, that arm just kind of naturally became darker. I didn't mean it for the first layer, but I'm going to come in here underneath her arm and I'm going to add that next layer of shadow. And I'm going to pull my color out. And let's see, I'm going to make a little bit darker here because this would be darker, like on her chest a little bit would be darker. And add that next layer around her arm. But again, I'm not trying to cover up everything I put on. So I can come here and add just a tiny bit more, but I want to leave that one a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to want to come back here and add just a little bit more color. She is looking so, so cute. All right, let's see if we can't finish up her collar. Definitely going to tap it here and then come down here. So I wanted that to be kind of more like the color of her hearts. I think I'm going to have to add a little bit of black into that color to make it what I want. Okay, let's come in. There you go. So you get 50 colors in your box, but you can also mix whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to do her cheeks. I'm going to pick up a little bit of pink. And I'm going to have it off to the side here. I'm going to make it pretty thin. I really want a very light color. Thank you so much. Okay, those who are watching on YouTube, thanks so much for popping on over there tonight. If you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, or if you like what you see, you'd like to subscribe, I'd love to have some new subscribers. That would be great. Okay, so I'm just tapping those cheeks in, just the end of my brush. And I'm not doing totally round circles. You can kind of see how it's more, got some open spaces, and it's sitting on top. That's what I'm looking for. Now I can clean my brush, give it a tap, and I can come in and just pick up a little bit of color and spread my little color out on her cheeks. Now I can also do that same color a little bit like on her nose if I wanted to. Maybe around her mouth, you could add a little bit there. Oh, she is so, so cute. All right, let's do a little bit of work on my snow. So for my snow, I used a little bit of that same color that I used on her dress, just to repeat my colors again a little way around my picture. And I'm going to put a little bit of blue, swipe a little bit of blue on that snow, just to liven it up a little bit. I'm also going to take a little bit of that blue and I'm going to swipe it down here. I'm keeping it mostly back and forth on that direction. And we're going to come here. Whoops, need a little bit more. And I'm going to come here and add just a little bit more. But I don't want to cover everything up. I still want some white showing. Okay, so that is my lightest blue. Now I'm going to come in. Now I'm using a dark blue on the top up here in my sky, in my night sky. I'm going to pick up that same blue, which is more of this dark navy color is what I'm going to be using. I'm going to pick a little bit of that up and I'm going to start a puddle of that. So let's see, where am I on my chart wise? Yes, if you don't have a color chart, you need to make one when you get your colors so you can kind of tell where your colors are because they look so different in the pan than what they do when you put them on paper. So it's always a great idea to do a color chart. Use the paper that you're normally going to use. That way you'll be able to see how it kind of absorbs and sticks in there. So there I have some puddles started. I'm going to rinse my brush out because I have way too much in there. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of this color and I'm going to wash it like in front of my doorway, back and forth, just to give it look like somebody goes in and out of that door. I'm going to come here and do the same thing on that one. And I'm going to do a little bit of wash here as well. Now let's take a little bit of work on our windows and our doors. I took the orange that I first did in her hair and I popped that in my window just to give it like a glow, like somebody's home, the lights are on. And for the doors, I just chose another blue color. This one's a little bit brighter. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to go straight up and down like this. Okay, cute. Oh, I can see my blue is my silver is starting to show up on my wings. It's probably not going to show so much on the camera if it's glistening or not, but it really is very pretty to have that there. All right, let's go ahead and work on these trees. Now I'm going to take the same blue that I used for her trees, or for my trees, or for her dress, I mean. I'm going to use the same blue I used for her dress. And that's the color that I'm going to put inside of my bushes. So I'm going to just come in, put that on there. Now I'm going to come in and actually wipe some of it off with a thirsty brush. So I'm putting in my color where I want it. Okay, then I'm going to rinse my brush out with clean water to give it a tap. And then I'm going to come in and pick a little bit of it up to make it lighter. That already looks really cute just by that little bit there. I'm thinking I want a little bit of color on the front part of my snow here. That would look good. And I think I want to put that same darker color there. Let's go ahead and make a little bit of a blue door for my church. Just a tiny bit different than what that little opening is there. Okay, let's see what's next. Oh, up next is going to be the background pretty much. I'm thinking I'm going to come back in and just do this little lollipop trunk right there with my dark marker. Leave it that way. All right, up next is going to be the background. I'm going to switch to a bigger brush to do it. You can see the sparkle in her wings. Oh, good. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to pick up a number 10. And I'm going to use a bigger brush because I'm doing this background. I'm going to pick up more of that darker navy sky color because I want a fair amount of that in my palette when I'm ready to go. Okay, that looks good. All right, so for this one, I'm going to start on this area and I'm going to move across. Now, watercolor isn't a permanent medium, especially at this stage. So I'm not going to want to get a lot of moisture inside of the areas I already have colored because that color is going to want to move right on into it. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to be changing the direction of my brush. I'm going to be leaving a little bit of white too because I'm going to do another layer of this color with a little bit more black in it. So this is just my first layer. So you can see how I even have a little bit of white kind of around my items, which is fine. I like very much a whimsical style. Now for this one, I'm going to try to make it more light at the horizon line. So I'm going to come down with my colors. I'm going to be adding a darker color in so I can make that area darker. But my goal in the end is to try to have a lighter shade of this darker blue at the bottom. You know, I should have done that little line right there in my micron pen too. The rest of her string. It's funny how we can see the things that we forget when we get cruising along and then we're like, oh, I forgot to do that area. Okay, let's put this in here. I'm going to move fairly fast because I don't want to spend a lot of time rubbing any one area and getting it super wet for my colors to bleed together. So I'm going to definitely go around these little lollipop trees because they're going to be lighter. I need to go around this one a little bit more. Oh, it looks like I mixed just about enough paint to get around one time. Okay. Cute. All right, let's pick up some more of that color. But now this time I'm going to add some more black into it. So I'm going to pick up that blue and then I'm going to add some black to it. I could even add just another layer of this color without even adding anything into it, and it would look completely darker when I go ahead and put it on there. But I'm going to add a little bit of black. Black is pretty potent, so a little bit goes a long ways. All right, so I'm thinking that's going to be good. So let's go ahead and add that. Now I know I want that to be darker up here. So I'm just going to fill it in again, change the directions of my hand. I'm holding my brush fairly far back to keep things loose so I don't get so tight with my brush movements. Okay, I'm going to go around it. I can go darker on my edges, but when I get down here, so to get that to be blended out so it's not so dark, I can wash my brush out, have clean water on it, and then come up and touch that and drag that color down. So it's not getting so dark all the way down. Okay, here we go. We're going to come to the top again. Change the direction of my hand. Now, if you wanted to, you could add salt at this stage because things are pretty wet. So you could sprinkle a little table salt on this and make a little sparkly sky that way. I'm going to be adding some white watercolor on the top. I'm going to be splashing some of that color up there. So I'm going to bring this dark in. I'm going to put a little bit underneath her belly, but then I'm going to rinse my brush out, clean water, and then I'm going to just pull that color towards me. So it's a little bit lighter. Okay, and then you can decide, are you dark enough? Do you need to add more? I can give it just a little bit of chance to dry. I can pick up a little bit more of that color again. I can add just a little bit of black into it. And watercolor always dries lighter, so it's going to dry slightly lighter than what we're seeing right now. I'm getting a little sloppy right here. You see how my blue is kind of getting into her hair? So I need to be a little careful about that. I'm pretty wet. Okay, here we go. Let's make it a little bit darker. I just want that kind of that dark feel at the top and then lighter as we're going down. Okay, rinse my brush out, tap those colors in. Okay, I think that looks good. I'm going to pick up my white watercolor now. I have a white watercolor in my tray, in my set. So I'm just going to pick up some white. It reminds me of chalk paint in a way. I'm making a pretty wet mixture into my little white pan that I have here. And I'm going to go ahead and hold my marker up here. And then I'm going to tap my brush, hold my marker straight, or hold it solid. And then I'm just going to tap up and down while my color's still wet. And you're going to see where we get those little kind of star things happening with my white watercolor, which kind of reminds me of salt. It won't be as pronounced because it will dry a little bit lighter, but you just want a nice consistency of like an ink. This one is going to be more like an ink on your brush. But I'm going to add some more types of snow. So this won't be my only one, twinkly ones. But it is kind of fun to see how it's spreading out and just kind of bursting into those little burst areas. Now I did get some on her face, so I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to give it a touch. Okay, now it's kind of bothering me how my blue got way too far down into her hair. So I'm going to take my smaller brush, I'm going to rinse it out, give it a tap, and then I'm going to come in here and tickle this edge and pick that color up a little bit. So my red is still sticking down, but I was able to pick up my blue, so it's not quite so strong in her hair. And I got a little bit on her face. I'm going to try to clean that up too. So I took my brush, cleaned it, clean water. I'm going to come in here and just tickle that area and just pick that up a little bit. So not all's lost, even if we have a little bit of wildness that happens there. I'm going to finish this line here. I'm going to outline my star. I'm going to be using a gold pen. Speaking of gold, let's go ahead and add a little bit of gold. So I'm going to take this gold one. This is Watercolor. It's just a gold pen. It's a great little gold pen. I'm going to give her gold buttons. This is kind of a nice bright gold. And then I'm going to swoop across her dress, give her that gold band, and then come across here. And then I'm going to come in here and give some just round balls. 4, 5, 6. Okay, the 6 is on there. Now I didn't do the chimneys. I better do those. Let's see. I'm going to take a little bit of my rusty color, a little bit of my red, and just pop that in there for my little chimneys. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to do this a quick dry. Normally I would say just let it sit on its own and dry on its own. But I want to go ahead and give this just a little quick dry because I want to be able to use that marker in my background too. Thank you, Kizzy. Kizzy, is that how we say it? Kizzy? Now your paper is going to buckle when you do this. If you force it dry, you're going to get a lot of buckling. So I can already see my papers coming towards me. It's buckling. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to turn this over and add some heat to the back to get this paper to settle down and become more flat. Okay, once I do that, then my color will, or my paper will go back and sit more flat. I can still see that little bit of blue spot on her face. I'm going to try to lift it a little bit more with some clean water, but not a lot because I could easily remove the other area. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the red, the orange, and I'm going to mix my own color over here. And I'm going to give my windows just a little bit more glow. So I'm going to choose one side. I'm going to choose this side to the left and add just a little bit more glow right in there. And I'm going to choose a little bit of, maybe I'll take a little bit of this blue, add a little bit of the dark sky color to it. And I'm going to come and choose one side of my door that I want to make darker. One side of this over here. One side of this door to be darker. I think I'm going to have to add a little bit more dark on that one. So I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow over here too. That was a lot of shadow. So if I got way too much water, so I'm going to rinse my brush out, tap it on my paper towel, give this up and pull up some of my color, absorb it back up. Okay, cute. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more white so you can see how much my white actually did disappear. So now it became more of just a texture in my background, and I want to be able to pop that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a few more gold dots, like they're gold twinkly something or another in my background. This is an oil-based marker, so I can still smell it. I'll need to be a little bit aware of where my hand is, so I'm not actually dragging my fist through it. I'm going to go ahead and do some twinkle stars with my Uniball pen. Those are just going to be little X's with a line in the middle. So an X with a line. I'm going to create a brighter white as another little dimension because I want to give this background very much a twinkly night type of sky. Okay, maybe one here. Okay, cute. Now I want to add one more dot, another size dot, so I'm going dot, dot, dot. I'm going to be using my Posca pen for this, my Posca pen, and I'm going to create some little dot patterns with my Posca pen. It's a nice bright white. It can absorb some of the background color, so some of them may absorb into being kind of a soft blue color. But it makes a perfect little dot for this background. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do the star gold. Let's go ahead and add that little gold star there. The one thing about this marker, this particular marker, it doesn't have a very sharp point tip. I think I would like to find one with a very sharp tip on it to be able to do some of these. So I'm going to be looking for a marker that might have that very much of it's more of a pointy end. Well, there she is. I should probably sign my name somewhere. Let's see. Maybe I shall do it down here. go ahead and I'll do it in pencil. Is where I'm going to put it right there at the bottom. Sign your work too when you get done. And there she is. Isn't she as sweet as can be? I think she's darling. And I always say, you know, they don't match exactly. They're not twins, but they could be cousins, right? They could be cousins. I think she's super sweet. Well, thank you everyone for joining me tonight. And I also wanted to point out that I do have a Ko-fi page, which is very much like a Patreon page. It's just a great way to be able to support my page and my draw-alongs if you're finding, but benefit in coming along and drawing with me. This is a simple way to do it. My sketchbook membership, they receive all the tracers from all the drawings. So the gals who are part of the sketchbook tracer pattern tonight, they did receive her, and then I gave them the bonus of a high resolution copy of the original one that I painted, so they can print that out for their own use if they want to. Well, that is it for tonight. I will be back on. I do try to go live at least twice a week for all my draw-alongs. And thank you, friends, for joining me. I see your names popping up, and I'm so appreciate you being here. Let's see if I can't move this camera back. We'll go back this direction like that. There we go. Thanks, everyone, for joining me. You have a great evening, and it's soon to be Christmas time, and I'm so glad I was able to get this Christmas angel in. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. And